Good morning. Just checking to see if our live stream is working this morning. And there it looks like we're up and going. Okay, so I want to welcome those of you who are in our Zoom room today. And thank you for being here on this cold, wintry day, at least where I am at. So, just getting all set up here. So it's Thanksgiving week here in the United States. And this time of year is always a good time when I pause to reflect. And I think our whole nation pauses to reflect on the good things that we have in our life and the things that we're grateful for. And there are so many opportunities that we could complain around us every day. And so learning to be in that state of gratitude and appreciation is a habit. And this time of the year is a good time for us to establish that habit. But as I thought about what I wanted to share with you this week, and I pondered about that, I thought, I'm so grateful for all the difficult experiences that I've had in life, because those experiences are the ones that make me the person that I am today. And as I pondered about that, I thought how important it might be today for somebody who's going through some difficult things right now to just have that hope and that reminder that those difficult things, they're not here forever, and they're here as lessons, and they're here as signals to help us understand and heal the wounds inside of us that need healed so that we can grow into the people that we're meant to be. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. I have the beautiful opportunity in my world today. I work in a line of work that is joyful for me. Every day it's exciting to think about who I serve and who I get to help and who I get to intersect with so that their paths can go in a different direction. And it wasn't always that way. I think back to the many different times in my life where it felt so painful that I wasn't certain if I could continue to go on. And those experiences were relationship experiences, financial experiences, experiences with my kids and as a single parent, job experiences. And I remember times when I just wanted to go home every day and cry. And sometimes I did. And sometimes things get so difficult that you even lose the ability to connect with those tears. And I've experienced times like that as well, where you just feel like you're swimming in living, like everything in life is painful for you. And each moment of putting one foot in front of the other is painful. Might seem, even getting out of bed in the morning, like there's no excitement, no passion, nothing to look forward to the day, and only maybe more hurt, more trauma. I know in my world today, there's people who are facing the holidays for the first time without a loved one. And that loved one might be because of death. It might be because of divorce. It might be because there's been a painful family separation. And those hurts are so real and so painful. And when we're in the middle of those hurts, we just, it's like the saying being you in the forest where you can't see the forest for all the trees, because all we can see when we're in the middle of those hurts is the pain. And our brain wants to know, how do we get out of this experience? How do we get beyond this? How do we get to somewhere else that isn't painful? And while we're experiencing those things, we can deal with those painful situations in several ways. In fact, I've identified like 6 different ways that I dealt with those things in my life. And so I'm going to share those 6 things with you today and see if they resonate with you where you're at today, or even from experiences that you've had in the past. One of the ways I dealt with those hurts is to ignore it. I did my best to ignore and pretend that something in my world was causing me hurt. And I think that's a protection mechanism for us, where if we don't acknowledge that it's happening, then we don't have to figure out what next. So that's one way, is ignoring. Number 2 is a big one, and it's blaming others. Oh, I've done my fair share of pointing fingers and blaming others. When we're going through those difficult times, it's always easy to say, well, I'm here because this person did this or this person did that. And that also is a protection mechanism that keeps us from looking directly in the mirror at us and saying, how do I contribute to being here? What's my responsibility in being in this situation? But blaming others feels good in the moment, although it doesn't. It's the thing that we want to reach out and do, but it doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't get us any further along. The other thing we can do tied to blaming is just complaining and talking about our situation, where we're just kind of like stuck in repeating the same thing over and over again. And maybe you have a friend who's going through a difficult time, and all they want to do is kind of talk about that situation and stay in it and wallow in it and not really find a solution to move out of it. That again is part of being in the hurt, and again is a protection mechanism to keep us from what keeps us stuck. It keeps us where we're at, but sometimes it can serve a purpose when we're not ready to really look deep and see what's next. Number 3 is we can build a protection mechanism that keeps anything from poking those hurts or those sore spots in our soul. If you've watched my Facebook page or Instagram this week, you've seen the message that I've put out there is follow the path of your tears to the window. They become the window of your soul to see what really needs healed inside of you. And we can get pretty creative when we're not ready to see what needs healed inside of us. We can get pretty creative by building protection mechanisms around us. If you just think for a moment that you have a thorn in your flesh somewhere. Oh gosh, when I was growing up, we always had to, we called them goat heads, but I don't know. I've heard other people call them like Texas sandburrs, or I don't know what you may have called them in your world, but there's those nasty thorns that have like 3 prongs on them. They would get in our bicycle tires, and wow, we replaced so many tires because of those. But occasionally you'd step on one and get one in your foot. So think of having one of those thorns in your foot. And instead of being willing to look down there and pull it out, you decided to build a mechanism to protect you from feeling the pain that it was causing. So if you were going to do that, what would you do? Well, you couldn't wear a normal pair of shoes because in that normal pair of shoes, you would feel that hurt. So now you might have to go out there and look for a new special pair of shoes that allowed you to have this thorn in your foot and not feel the hurt. Maybe you even have to like create your own pair of shoes. I can see you might have to cut a hole in your shoes where that thorn is so that that thorn doesn't rub up against anything. And you might decide also with this pair of shoes that I can only walk so far and I can't walk any further than that or the pain starts. So now you begin to limit your world by only going as far as you can in this new pair of shoes. And that might eventually keep you staying home, and maybe you only go to work and back, but that's only places you can go with this pain, with this thorn in your foot. And you eventually begin to develop your world around that thorn. And pretty soon you begin to forget why you're not going anywhere. You forget that that thorn is there, but yet you are now living according to this new set of rules that protects you from ever feeling the hurt. Now that might seem like a strange analogy to you, and you might think, well, we would never do that. But I guarantee there's some place in your world where you're doing that today. It might be you've had a painful relationship in the past, maybe you had a painful marriage and you've been divorced, and now you are wanting to attract a new relationship into your world. But yet there's certain things about that new relationship that touch the thorn and touch the sore spot in your soul. And so you begin to put boundaries around that and say, well, I'll only have a relationship if it looks like this and it doesn't touch that thorn in my soul. Or if my partner acts in a certain way. Well, acting in a certain way is so that it doesn't touch that thorn in your soul. So that's a protection mechanism. And pay attention now to where you may have developed that protection mechanism in your life. And know that the only way to healing that is actually to look and to begin to look at that thorn and pull it out. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit more in a moment. Some of us fight to keep our hurts and to not heal them. And using that analogy of the thorn, we might have friends that come say, if you would only pull that thing out of your foot and put on a different pair of shoes, put some ointment on it, bandage it up, then you could go out and do all of these things. And you say, you know what? No, there's no way I could pull that thorn out of my foot. It's been there too long. It's been there forever. And I could never pull that thing out of my foot. Nope, it's part of who I am now. Well, that is fighting for your own hurt, fighting for your own suffering, and making excuses and reasons to not move on. And that goes hand in hand with number 5, which is we can do things that sabotage ourselves, that sabotage our goals when we're not willing to look at those hurts that are running our soul. Then we begin to, we want to start out in a new direction. And we go in that direction only as long as it doesn't trigger off some of these hurts. And some of those hurts can be buried so deep in our soul that we don't even realize that they're running there today. So if you think about a situation in your life where you would like something different, but yet the same thing always seems to happen, you think, wow, I'm my own biggest enemy to keep myself from moving forward. Well, that's a sign that there is an unconscious thorn in your soul that's keeping you stuck. And that until you look and start to pull that thorn out, you're going to sabotage yourself. That's the way it appears, is where we're moving forward and then we do something that stops our own growth. And then number 6 is we eventually have to find the courage to heal. And that starts with a decision that says, I'm no longer willing to accept these circumstances. I'm no longer willing to accept this in my world. And so I'm going to do anything and everything that it takes to figure out what is causing this, where I'm at, and how I can get to a space where I can get beyond this. So first of all, let's talk about how do those wounds happen to us? How do the thorns get in our soul? And so there's a couple ways that they get there. But when from age 0 to 7, that is our imprint years. When we are taking in a lot of messages from the people around us, it might be from our parents, it might be from our friends, our siblings. Nowadays, it's from social media, from the things that we see. It might be from teachers. And it might be just by an event that happened in our world that we interpreted in in a harmful manner. So between those ages 0 to 7, we don't have any filters to be able to filter what's coming in and to say, no, that's not helpful. Yes, that is helpful. And we also don't have any ability to distinguish between ourselves and the adults that are taking care of us in our world. So when they tell us something, we just automatically accept it to be true because they are our pillars of truth in our world. So everything goes straight in to our unconscious mind. And those things can transition into beliefs. So usually a hurt or a thorn in our soul is tied to something that we began to believe for some reason that is out of alignment with who we really are as a human being, what our true soul is calling us, the direction our soul is calling us. So keep that in mind as we go, that those hurts are tied to things that we now believe that are unhelpful. Our our hurts can also be inherited to us from generations past. Some of them are actually inherited at the cellular level, where if you think back to World War II and people who may have experienced some really difficult things or hurts, and it can even be any traumatic experience that your parents experienced where they began to have this sense of fear and they began to live their world in a certain way. And then they go on to raise children, and yet they're still having these protection mechanisms that they developed. And they teach those to their children. So, and those actually get almost embedded in our DNA. There's studies out there that show that those things get into our system at a cellular level. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't heal them still and move forward from them. And then as age 8 to 13, those are our modeling years where we're modeling the behavior around us. And so if you're watching and you're saying, oh, so and so did this, so and so did that. And it might just be absorbing things from your environment. And those can lodge in as hurts. And then our socialization years are age 14 to 21, where we're really developing relationships. And if something goes wrong in those relationships, whether it be a relationship with a parent, a relationship with a sibling, a relationship with a significant other, those can really develop some significant hurts in our relationships and our social awarenesses. So, those are where the hurts come from. And now, how do we begin to look at them and look at how we can get rid of them? Because it is possible for you to heal. There are levels of healing, and it's possible for you to go through all of those levels of healing and completely heal all of the things in your soul. And the beautiful thing is that is possible. And the other beautiful thing is the levels of growth that we have to experience in our life are unlimited. So our growth is in equal proportion to the things in our soul that we heal and our willingness to look at those things and grow on, and then really to grow into the fullness of who we are as human beings. So it starts with a willingness to look at what's causing those tears. Now, today, when I have tears, which I still do, I had last week, I had some experiences that brought some tears to my eyes. And I was tempted to do some of those things that we talked about. I was tempted to say, well, so and so isn't acting in the right manner. So and so isn't acting how I want them to. Well, guess what? It's not that person's responsibility to act in a way that keeps from bumping into my thorns. In fact, if I don't have that person's behavior or actions to signal to me that there's still a thorn there, I don't have the opportunity to heal it. So those tears gave me the opportunity to say, what's still hurting in my soul that needs healed? And so we can ask ourselves a couple questions. And if you're taking notes or want to jot these down, or even you can go back on the recording later. And the questions you can ask yourself is one, what is this hurt tied to? And number one, we have to create some space to be able to do this. So taking the time to explore deep, what is this hurt tied to? And what is underneath it? Is there something in my life that this reminds me of? Another experience or another time and place? And when did I first feel this and experience it? You may consciously know that, or you may not. It might be buried deep in your unconscious, in which case, I'm going to recommend some other tools to help you with your healing in just a moment. But if you can tie back to the source of that hurt and that pain, most times it's going to be from an experience that you interpreted to believe something that it really wasn't helpful to believe. So we want to unhook from that experience. And we want to say, is what I have interpreted this experience to mean, is that really helpful? And is it 100% true? And then begin to look for five things in your world today that would prove that it's not true. So there might be a message such as, it's not safe in a relationship for me to communicate what I really want and need. And that might be a belief or a hurt that you experienced from a past relationship. So you can ask yourself, is that true? Is it 100% true? Well, then we have to look, is it safe for me to express my truth in a relationship? And that's going to steer us some light to say, you know what, where I'm at today, either it is safe or it isn't safe. And if it isn't safe, then there's some deeper questions to ask. What do I need to do to take care of myself? What do I need to do to make it safe for me to express that truth? But a lot of times those beliefs are tied to it's no longer true for us. Maybe it was true when that thorn lodged in our soul, but it's no longer true. So now we can look to say, you know what? That feeling of it not being safe, that was the old me back there when I was 15 or when I was 5 or when I was 25. But to me today, that's no longer true. And look for 5 reasons that prove it's no longer true. The people around me love me enough to honor and accept my truth. I know to be true to my soul that it's safe to say what I truly want and need. So ask yourself, is it helpful for me to believe this? And in order to heal that hurt, we can now say, we're going to allow permission to replace that hurt, to send all our love and compassion back to that hurt with no judgment, no criticism. And this is super, super important. It is in no way helpful for you to judge or criticize yourself for having that feeling and that hurt. So let go of that. And then ask yourself, what would I like to see here instead? Instead of believing that it's unsafe for me to communicate in relationships, I now want to believe that it is safe. I surround myself with people who completely love and accept me, and it is safe for me in every moment to ask for what I need and express my truth. That's what I want to believe instead. And so we're going to begin to put those things now in this new being of who we are. And we want to cement that new belief with a mantra or something that reminds us of that. A mantra can just simply be reminding yourself, I am safe and I can express who I am today. It is safe for me to be 100% who I am today. And then ask yourself, who will I be when I'm acting from this healed space and this new belief? And how is that going to change your world? So that's a process for you to begin to dig deep and to notice. Notice that the path of the tears, and that doesn't have to be tears, it can be just unhappiness. When I'm unhappy about something, or when something that someone does just deeply touches me or angers me or does anything that triggers me in some way, shape, or form, it's a clue that there's something that needs to be healed. Now, sometimes we need some extra help to heal those things. I work with my clients in healing some of those unconscious things with a technique related to neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, which helps them to quickly go into that unconscious mind to see those things and bring those things from unconscious to conscious awareness so they can be healed. There are other techniques that I've used myself, a technique called EMDR, that you want to find someone who's a licensed therapist who's licensed in that to use. EMDR is a beautiful way of healing traumatic experiences, PTSD related experiences. And PTSD can come from simple things. It doesn't have to be, we think of it as tied to maybe soldiers who've gone off to war or experienced very traumatic things. And that is a one form of it, but we can have that from any survival, any situation that we've been in that has been a survival type situation. Another technique is RTT. That's one that works well with solving and bringing things from the unconscious. Hypnotherapy. So there's many tools and resources out there today. And so if this conversation today has sparked and shed some awarenesses in you, I want you to leave a comment in the chat to let me know what awareness has it brought to you today? What's been helpful for you? And here's the thing, who are you going to be as a human being when you can heal those things and then connect powerfully to your true purpose as a human being and as a person here today, traveling in this world? And who are you going to be able to help? And who are the people you're going to be able to reach out to and help heal when you can heal your own soul? So let's go back. When I made a decision about 10 years ago, I made a decision that I was no longer going to accept my life the way that it was, the misery that I was experiencing on a daily basis. And I made a decision to move forward. And I've never looked back from that decision. But it wasn't easy facing myself and facing things. At times, there were times when I felt like if I started crying, I would never stop. And what I've learned is one, that's not true, because there is a depth to our sadness. And when we allow all those things to be released out, it is on the path of our healing. But that healing led me to being able to get training as a coach, being able to work with people to help them move forward and heal from their hurts and move on. And that's led me to create a beautiful life, to learn that I can create and have the ability, when I stay connected and I stay focused on that healing and I stay focused on that connection to my own internal GPS system, then I have the ability to turn my scars into stars, my scars into the fuel and the fertilizer that energize me to that next space. So I'm going to pop over just really quick to our Facebook live stream and see if there are any comments. I see Cecilia's there watching us. Hello, Cecilia. We've got a couple people watching, and so I don't see any questions or comments. And so just checking in our chat in the Zoom room. So, okay, well, that is our conversation for today. And thank you so much for being here. Remember that these live streams stay.
Good morning. Just checking to see if our live stream
just a
is
minute
working
here
this morning.
Okay, sorry about that. Our the video began replaying. So okay, these videos stay live on YouTube, or the recorded videos stay on YouTube, or I upload them to YouTube in the week following the conversation. They stay live on Facebook. Okay, there we got it all. Okay, so thank you for those who are live with us on Facebook. We're going to now end that live stream and have a conversation with those who are in the Zoom room. So thanks and have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.